In this video, we are going to discuss regarding the effective rate of interest. An effective interest rate is the actual rate that we earn on an investment or that we pay on a loan. Actually, when we borrow a sum of money from a bank as a loan or from anybody else, an interest will be stated on it. If it is a compound interest, then that interest will be compounded periodically. That period will be pre-mentioned like annually, half yearly, quarterly, monthly, etc. So, the interest paid in one period will include the principal amount and the interest of the previous period. For example, if we are paying an interest on 10,000 rupees in the first year, in the second year we have to pay 10,000 rupees plus the interest of first year, and the rate of interest is calculated on this added figure. That means the interest rate of second year will be higher than that of first year. Again, in the third year, this is going to increase because the second year interest is also added to the previous year's figure to calculate the interest rate. That is the effect of compounding. So, when the compounding effect is computed, the actual rate of interest paid will be different from the stated interest or the nominal interest that was mentioned at the time of borrowing. So, the calculation of the effective rate of interest help us in comparing between the two interest rates when compounding period is different. That means if a particular bank says that we are providing loan on 6% interest and we compound it annually, and another bank is telling that they are compounding interest at 6% quarterly, then we can compare which bank is providing us the lower rate of interest. When the compounding period increases, that means quarterly compounding means in a year there will be 4 periods of compounding. Annually compounding, there will be only one time compounding in a year. When the compounding period increases, the interest we are paying is also increasing. That will be clear only if we know the effective rate of interest concept. That is where this concept is used. When we calculate the effective rate of interest, we can understand which bank is providing us the lowest rate of interest. Otherwise, when we compare the interest of both the banks, both are telling 6%. It is not possible for us to understand which bank is providing the lower amount. But when we are calculating the effective rate of interest, we are comparing not the interest rate only, but we are also considering the compounding period. One bank is compounding quarterly and the other bank is compounding annually. So the bank that compounds annually will be more beneficial to us. That knowledge is received only when we calculate the effective rate of interest. So the actually stated rate is converted into effective rate for the purpose of this comparison. The effective annual interest rate can be calculated using the formula 1 plus I divided by n whole raised to n minus 1. Here, I is the nominal interest rate or the rate stated by the bank or the person from whom we are borrowing, and n is the number of compounding periods. If these two things are known, we can easily calculate the effective interest rate using the given formula. Now, let us consider a problem to make the concept more clear. What would be the effective rate if the stated rate is 6% compounded half yearly, quarterly, and monthly? Let us calculate the effective rate of these three different situations. When compounded half yearly, what happens to this 6%? When compounded quarterly, what happens to this 6%? And when compounded monthly, what happens to this 6%? Let us see. First of all, let us consider the half yearly compounding case. Here, n will be 2. That is, in a year, 2 times they are compounding. And I is 6%. That is 6 divided by 100. That will be 0.06. Now let us apply the formula. Effective interest rate is equal to 1 plus I divided by n whole raised to n minus 1. I and n are already given. So let us apply it in the formula. 1 plus 6 divided by 100, or that is 0.06. That divided by n is 2. Whole raised to 2 minus 1. So that will be just like 2 plus 0.06 divided by 2 whole square minus 1. So 1.0609 minus 1, hence it is 0.0609. That means when we are converting it into percentage, we have to multiply it with 100. So the actual percentage becomes 6.09 percentage. Now look at the question. In the question, it is given that the amount is given with a stated interest of 6%, but actually the effective rate is coming to 6.09%. So even though the bank is stating that they are asking only 6%, when it is compounded half yearly, we are paying 6.09%. Next, let us see what happens to this 6% when it is compounded quarterly. Compounding quarterly means in a year 4 compounding periods will be there. So n will be 4 and I is same 6% or 6 divided by 100, that will be 0.06. Now the same formula is used here and these values are applied in the formula to calculate the effective rate. So 1 plus 6 divided by 100 divided by 4. So instead of 2, here we are using 4 because in a year 4 compounding periods are there as compounding is done quarterly, and that whole divided by 4. That is again the same n, and we calculate it, we get it as 4 plus 0.06 divided by 4 whole raised to 4 minus 1, that is 1.0014 minus 1, that is 0.061. And for converting it into percentage, multiply it with 100, we'll get it as 6.1 percentage. When we compounded it half yearly, we got 6.09 percentage, and when compounding it quarterly, the 6 percentage is again increasing. It becomes 6.1 percentage. Now let us check what happens when it is compounded monthly. Then n becomes 12 because in a year 12 months are there. Every month interest is compounded. So n becomes 12. I is same 6%. Now the same formula is applied and the values are put in the formula. It becomes 1 plus 6 divided by 100 divided by 12 whole raised to 12 minus 1. So that is 12 plus 0.06 divided by 12 whole raised to 12 minus 1. 1.0 0617 minus 1. So that is equal to 0.062. When converted into percentage, it becomes 6.2 percentage. So here the rate becomes the highest. In the first case, when it is compounded half yearly, 6 percentage is becoming 6.09 percentage. And when we are compounding quarterly, it becomes 6.1 percentage. But when we are compounding monthly, it becomes 6.2 percentage. The effective interest can also be calculated using the compound interest formula. A is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole raised to N, where total interest can be calculated by applying the formula amount minus principal. And P is principal, N is the number of years, R is the rate of interest per annum. This formula can also be used to calculate the effective rate of interest. Now, let us try out a problem to check how the calculation of effective interest rate is done using this formula. Find effective rate of interest if the interest calculated is at 8% quarterly. Now, let us consider the principal as 100 and N is 4 because in a year 4 times it is compounded. It is given in the question that interest is calculated quarterly. That means there are 4 compounding periods in a year. So 1 year, 4 compounding periods. 1 into 4 is equal to 4. That is N. Then rate R is equal to 8 divided by 4. 4 compounding periods. So 8 divided by 4, that is 2. In every quarter, instead of 8%, 2% interest is taken. That is found by dividing 8 by 4. Now let us apply it in the formula. A is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole raised to N. So it becomes 100 into 1 plus 2 divided by 100 whole raised to 4. That is 100 into 100 plus 2 divided by 100 whole raised to 4, and when calculating 100 plus 2 divided by 100, it becomes 1.02. That thing whole raised to 4. That becomes 108.24. 100 into 1.02 whole raised to 4 is 108.24. This is the amount to be paid at the end of that period. Here we are considering 1 year. So the amount at the end of the first year is 108.24. This is not the interest amount. This is the total amount at the end of the year. So when the amount is known, we can calculate the interest. That is, interest is equal to amount minus principal. So 108.24 minus 100 will be the compound interest. 8.24. That means the effective rate of interest here is 8.24%. So even though it is stated that 8% is the interest, actually in a year we are paying 8.24% when the interest is compounded quarterly. In a year, instead of 8%, when it is compounded, it becomes 8.24%. That is called effective rate of interest. So, that is how we calculate the effective rate of interest. Thank you for watching this video. For more videos, subscribe the channel.